For Macquarie.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I'm really pleased to rise to speak to this bill because it's going to make a difference to, on the one hand, pensioners and on the other hand, a whole lot of welfare recipients who get caught in this in-between place when they're finding their first bit of work and still trying to keep themselves afloat. So it really tackles some issues that make life difficult for people transitioning into work and for pensioners who might decide that doing a bit of work would be great for them, whether it's because they need the stimulation or they need the money. Either way, this is really dealing with some issues that have been outstanding. So let me talk through a couple of the things that are really important and why this bill needs to get through this place. I'll talk about pensioners first. And it does mean that pensioners wishing to return to the workforce can do so with much less fear of losing the access to their other income support measures if they take up some work. Now, from the 1st of January, it will mean, and that assumes this legislation passes the Parliament, it means that all new aged pension and veteran pension entrants will be able to start with a work bonus in their income bank balance of $4,000 rather than no dollars. Now, why this matters is because that allows you to earn a certain amount of money. But when you first go on to the pension, you can't actually get it immediately. So that's one of the changes that we're making. It's an upfront credit of $4,000 to all new pension entrants. And as I say, that means aged pension or veterans. And the other part of it is to permanently increase the maximum work bonus income balance you can have from $7,800 to $11,800. Now, that's where it currently sits because a year or so ago, we recognised that that would be a measure that would help get some older workers back into the workforce. Whether there's a skills shortage in a particular area, whether it's things like a referendum where the AEC is looking for a whole lot of extra workers, doing those small amounts of work can undermine their access to the pension. And so what we've found is that this is an effective way to do it, and we want to make this permanent. From $7,800 to $11,800. It's about giving older Australians more choice and flexibility to participate in the workforce. And that's why we're going to permanently enhance the pension work bonus. So how it works is existing pensioners will continue to benefit from that elevated maximum work bonus balance, with the new entrants, as I say, start with a balance of $4,000 rather than a balance of zero. We want to continue to ensure that that option is open to people to take up work or more. And I know in an electorate like mine in Macquarie, particularly in the Blue Mountains where there are a large number of retired people on a pension or part pension, but people who are also really keen to contribute, this is the sort of thing that will potentially make a real difference to the way they plan their next few years. We recognise that there are substantial benefits for older Australians in continuing to work, but also benefits to the entire community, particularly where we have skills shortages. They've got a wealth of experience and they're highly skilled in the things that they have done. When I think about my electorate, where we are short of tradespeople, the place we turn to is the Hawkesbury, where there are so many skilled, trade-trained people. And if this is an incentive to get some of them to move back into the workforce, then it is well worth it, particularly if they are able to contribute, if they're keen to do so, and the only thing stopping them is that they'll have a disadvantage financially. Now, all of these changes will take effect from the 1st of January, pending the passage of the legislation. And that will mean that there's no gap between the existing temporary measures that we put in place and the commencement of these new ongoing provisions. I think it's worth pointing out that the work bonus measure also includes some safeguards, just to ensure that individuals can't game the system by cycling on and off payments so that they receive multiple new entrant bonuses of $4,000. So we have thought through to ensure that there isn't incentives or, as we might say, unintended consequences in people doing that. There is a cost to this measure, and that cost is potentially $42.4 million over the forward estimates from 2023-24 for the next few years. But it's worth remembering that the costs for this measure are only realised if pensioners do take up the work. If this doesn't get taken up, then the costs will obviously be lower. I'm really keen to hear from people about this. I know I've had conversations in the last few months about the ability, people talking about the ability to be able to work, as I say, in things like the referendum. We also had a state election in New South Wales, and I know that there are a lot of pensioners who really enjoy being part of that democratic process. For those pensioners who aren't working, we know that it's often due to a whole range of factors and sometimes the type of work that's available or a desire to be retired. So this is here as an option. It's not a requirement, it's an option, and it is about giving flexibility to older people. The second part of this targets a completely different group of people, and that is other benefit recipients, people on job seeker payment, youth allowance, AB study, Oz study, parenting payment. It includes the age pension, but is much broader than that, clearly, disability support pension and carer payment. And this is the change we're making around what's called the employment nil rate period. Now, what this does is gives some flexibility so that as people are transitioning from, let's say, unemployment into employment, or from a particular situation but they're in a position now to take up work, there is, again, this taking away the fear that the social security support that is there, the safety net, will still be there for them as they're working through the transition to employment. It's very easy to think that one day someone's unemployed and the next day they've got a job and off they go, but it isn't always a smooth journey. And that would apply to students, that would apply to people on youth allowance, on disability support pension, and it certainly apply to people on parenting payments, where, with all the very best of intentions of moving into work, things may happen that mean they still need to rely for a short time on that social safety net that we in Australia are so proud to provide people with. So the measure, the employment nil rate period, extends that period of time for income support payments from the 6 fortnights to 12 fortnights. So we're going from 12 weeks to 26, from 3 months to 6 months. And it expands access to the nil rate period to those who enter full employment. What it allows is for people to stay active in the system. They can retain supplementary benefits such as concession cards, childcare subsidies, other supplementary payments when they first get back into work for longer. And that is the safety net that's now going to be in place. The measure really addresses concerns that losing access to those benefits or having to reapply, if things don't work out in your employment, having to reapply and wait for income support if things didn't go the way people had hoped, acts as a real disencouragement for people to take up work, particularly short-term work. I mean, there's not much incentive in taking up an initial couple of months contract if you know that at the end of it there's total uncertainty and you've foregone the supports that you had. It also acts as a real disincentive for casual work and gig economy work. So this is about giving people a bit more confidence to know that they can move forward without completely burning their bridges behind them. We know that people who have some work are twice as likely to ultimately exit income supports as those who don't. So getting those first bits of work are really important. And therefore, to improve employment outcomes, it is just critical that people are not disincentivised from taking on these short-term or sometimes ad hoc opportunities. We want to make the transition from income support to employment as smooth as possible, and this reduces the barriers for payment recipients so they can take up work by extending the period they're accessing those supplementary benefits and remain payable during the nil rate period, with their payment then automatically restored if their circumstances change. These changes will come in from the 1st of July 2024, pending the passage of this legislation. So, Deputy Speaker, neither of these is anything other than a sensible step to support people, to genuinely support people, particularly as they're moving into employment, and for pensioners to allow them to continue employment. I think we should be very proud of these changes. I really hope that these are promptly passed through the House. I do just want to touch finally on that point. As I say, we brought this in as some of these things in as a temporary measure. The maximum work bonus income bank measures were increased a year ago, from the 1st of December. The current temporary work bonus measure is due to end after the 31st of December, and that means from the 1st of January the work bonus income bank balance of 2.3 million pensioners will be reduced from the high it is now back down to the standard level of 7,800. And that means that there's a big gap, a big lag, and if we get this legislation through, and I'd urge the Parliament to support it, it will make this a seamless process for pensioners who really deserve to have their lives made as straightforward as possible and not tied up in some sort of parliamentary red tape. So I commend the bill to the House, and I'm very proud that we're doing these very sensible measures which will, we hope, improve employment opportunities for everyone.